How are you feeling before we get
Oh
started?
my gosh, I don't know what type of influenza I got, but it was awful. And you can hear it still. I'm like super congested, but way better than I was.
Have you ever noticed that, like, whenever you say flu, it's like, oh, cool, you got the flu. But when I hear influenza, I'm like, oh my God, it's 1843 and an entire town is going to die.
It
Like,
sounds way more
right?
dramatic. It definitely does.
Like, oh my God, next she's going to get the bubonic plague and we're all done for.
We're all,
Like,
it's all over for. Yeah.
will you tell everyone, because this will be on YouTube later, um, who you are, what you do, and then we're going to go into the Trump Biden swing.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Kate and Michelle, and I am an online health and fitness coach. I have a master's in exercise science, and I'm getting my second master's in clinical psychology. And my focus is on helping women over 30 become strong, fit, and free from diet culture pressures, trying to conform and fit in different boxes, and ultimately finding alignment with who you are and what you want.
I love that so much. And this is why we aligned. It was totally random. It just went haywire from the get-go. But for those of you that don't know me, my education is in nutritional science and behavioral psychology. So that is what I was like, okay, but we're going to have fun with it because the Trump Biden swing, and what I mean by that before we get into it, because she's going to help us figure out how to stop it, is the dogmatic, like, we're going to take our pecan pie, we're going to put a wall around it, you never get pecan pie again. Believe me, it's the worst thing in the world. Versus the, like, just wandering off, like eating, like nobody knows where you're going kind of swing. And it's this polar, and I'm not trying to make political statements here, y'all, but this polar, like dogmatic left right view that we see in politics, that we see in so many places. And we do that with our nutrition. And it's like all in or all out.
Mhm.
What is your experience with that?
So, I think a lot of people actually fit into that. And so, one of the things I love studying is personality and temperament. And so when you look at an individual who's going to be more extremist in their approach, it's one of my focal points as a coach to be able to acknowledge their blind spots, right? Because my job is not to just give them the perfect blueprint and the perfect path, but it's actually to look out for their best interest. And so when you have somebody who's more all or nothing, we need to focus on teaching them that there is the gray area, and the magic really is found in that gray area because I think we need to zoom out and look at life objectively, right? There are days it's going to fucking rain. You don't know when it's going to rain, but it's going to fucking rain. And you're going to have to put on your raincoat and you're going to have to get your umbrella and you're going to have to get your ass up and you're going to have to do what you can do. But if we think that everything has to be perfect all the time, when things don't meet our expectations, we internalize that as we did something wrong. And when people do something wrong or they perceive themselves as doing something wrong, what do? They self sabotage. And so instead of just looking up and going, okay, I can improve on that behavior, or I can learn how to plan for that better, or I can look at my systems and revamp them so that when I face the same situation, because inevitably you will, you now have tools to be able to navigate that appropriately. But because we internalize a shortcoming or failure to a degree in which we self sabotage, we're only setting ourselves back further. And then we have to make up ground to get back to where we once were instead of just looking up and going, okay, well, I can learn from this and then moving forward with better tools and understanding with how to navigate that in the future. But when you don't take the time to pause and think about that objectively, you continue to berate yourself. And people talk about fearing failure. You don't fear failing. In fact, you fear what other people will think of you if you don't perform to the standard which you perceive yourself to be able to perform to. And so you have to let go of this perfectionistic ideal because perfection is a prison and it will keep you stuck.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and end this right here. That was a great clip, and I'm going to go. And it is so interesting, right? Because I just want to let you free flow. I'll just throw bits in. But even back, even though it was like mistranslated, Voltaire said it, and I forget the exact year, but perfection is the enemy of good. And,
Mm.
and yet we find ourselves looking and seeking for perfection. Why do you think it is that people internalize those failures, those losses, take them so personally, and then self sabotage?
Well, I think a lot of it, like even just looking at the dynamics of how things have changed since the era of the internet, because everything on the internet is fucking fake. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Nobody is perfect. I don't care what your favorite coach or influencer puts out into the universe. They have bad days. They have days where their diets aren't perfect. They have days where they don't track things. They have days where they don't work out. I mean, at least I hope so. If not, then they probably have a dysfunctional relationship with exercise or food. And so either way, this ideal or this persona that we all aspire to feel like if we can't achieve that, then something is wrong with us. And that's just not the box that you were made to fit in. You're competing against different egos, different personas, different genetics, different lifestyles, because we also don't have all of the context like we do in real life. You see somebody on the net, you don't know what does their day-to-day look like, what does their routine look like, how much time availability do they have, what other people are dependent on them. Like moms, I'm sorry, but they putting pressure on themselves to look like an influencer is just totally asinine. It's not realistic. And so you feel like, oh, they're so much better than me, they have more than me, they have better genetics, they can do all these things. And then you start to hear people giving you the cold platter of excuses. It's your hormones, it's your age, it's carbs, it's fats, it's protein, it's this, it's fucking all bullshit. And so once you can kind of move through the facade of the interwebs, you recognize that everybody has life, everybody has shit, and you need to figure out which tools and systems work within your life, your beliefs, the flexibility that you need to be able to also experience the things that you're never going to get back in life, and then build yourself a roadmap around habits and behaviors that you can instill within yourself while letting go of certain things. Because in order to grow, you have to create space for growth, which means you have to stop doing certain things that you are doing, and people don't consider what it is they need to change or what they need to stop indulging in or how to regulate themselves, how to assert boundaries, how to say no to things, right? And then be able to slowly shift your natural behaviors, patterns, and systems into something that you can sustain long term. And so it's a combination of all those things.
I'm going to end this again. Like, this is so good. Like, this is why we clicked, because you're hitting the nail on the head, in my opinion. So let us look at that. Do you think, so let's go with moms, because that's a lot of my clientele. They do put this undue pressure upon themselves, not just with the way they look, in so many areas. Um, and in my opinion, moms are superheroes.
Yes.
So for any of y'all listening to this later, like, you have my utmost respect. Like, you guys, ladies, are incredible. I don't know how you do it. I can barely keep a cactus alive. Like, it's mind-boggling. So comparing yourselves to this version of yourself, but I used to look like this. Did your life look the same? And I think part of the piece that we leave behind is you forget about the crappy parts of that life as well. Like, I see it, with soldiers. They're like, oh man, I missed the glory days. You mean when your buddy got shot right next to you? Like, we forget that maybe we didn't have a lot on your plate. You didn't have a husband. You didn't have 2 kids or 3 kids. You didn't have these things. You weren't 40. You didn't have a job. And there's a chance that you may have had disordered eating behaviors back then too.
So one of the biggest things that I think is enlightening, and I have to also recognize that there are certain types of people that will have to go through the shitstorm of doing it the way that they perceive they need to do it in order to learn the lesson that they need to learn. Right? So I can sit here all day, and there were people way back when I had my own dysfunctional approaches to fitness that would tell me I don't need to do those things. But because I was willing to suffer, I thought that I had to. Right? So learning that
Mm.
are very different things, and then accepting that I have a tendency to take things a little bit too far, now I can start to look out for myself. But what people don't often discuss when it comes to looking a certain way or achieving a certain level of leanness is that it will cost you things. It will cost you time. It will cost you relationships. It will cost you social gatherings. It will cost you connection. It will cost you nights out. It will cost you travel, vacations, like all the things that we deserve to experience in life and that we should experience in life in order to get. And I was 6% body fat measured on calipers at Dr. Campbell's lab. So I've been fucking shredded.
Wow.
It cost me a lot of things that I will never get back. And I had to go to that extreme to recognize that I was only losing myself trying to fit into some mold where I thought maybe if I was a smaller version of me that I'd be a better version. I could learn to love myself then. Right? And that's why I always say you cannot hate yourself into a body that you love. It doesn't work that way. And so when it comes to kind of looking at a past version of yourself, I think it's important, like you said, to look at what is your life demands now, right? I used to weigh this much in high school. Well, you're not in high school anymore, Okay, you're a 35-year-old mom, you've got 3 kids, you work a 9 to 5, and you're also expected to cook, clean, put them to bed, take care of them when they're sick, connect with their teachers, talk to their principal, be a part of their school meetings. Like, there are so many other things that you have on your plate now. And so instead of feeling like something's wrong with you because you don't have the same kind of time that you used to be able to dedicate to it, doesn't mean that you can't have something more sustainable to set a better example for the people that will learn from you, which are the people that you're raising, and to live a healthier, more optimal, confident, energetic life, because your kids are going to need you to be that version of you, not the version of you that's obsessed with food and tracking and working out and exercise and steps and all the fucking other stuff that maybe once upon a time you were. Because that's also not teaching them good behaviors around good and bad food or language that we use when we talk about dieting or weight or any of those things. So I think it's letting go of, yes, that served a purpose at one point in my life and I am able to do these things, but let me do them better as a mom today.
I don't know if you saw me tear up there for a little bit, but I did. That was so beautiful and it's so true. And it breaks my heart to watch people have to, like, that we need to endure those things. There are going to be sacrifices one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what are we willing to sacrifice? And then an implied thing that you said there is management of expectations. I think that management of expectations is something that we could do a lot better at sometimes as coaches and as people, just in general.
Well, I think it's really hard when every time that you open up your phone, somebody's telling you that you should be able to lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks.
Correct.
Like, sorry, but that is not realistic, nor is it a sustainable rate of weight loss overall. Like, I don't give a fuck how rapidly you can lose weight, because the pendulum will swing if you don't learn anything throughout that. And so instead of trying to do it in 12 weeks, give yourself 12 months to do it once, do it right, and do it for the long term. But people don't want to delay gratification. And so reteaching people how to accept that short-term sacrifice for long-term gain is a thing. And ultimately, if you want to do this once, instead of, because so many women have spent at least a decade worrying about their weight, worrying about food, worrying about diet, worrying about exercise, not wanting to go out, hating the way they look in certain pictures, not getting in front of a camera to take pictures with their family or at social events or with their friends because they don't want to be seen. And so if you've wasted 10 years of your life trying to suffer through it only to gain the weight back over and over and over again, what is wrong with doing it once, doing it right, and committing yourself 12 months to doing it and never having to fucking worry about it again? But people cannot make that discernment of, this is the right path, even if it's a longer one for me to walk, because in the long term, it's the shortest path you could walk relative to everything else you've ever done.
100% truth. And when we look at it, it is, and we hear it all the time with clients. And it is, I've been worrying about this for 7 years. I've been working about this for 4 years. That is too long. It is costing you too much of your life. And your worth, whoever listens to this in the future, your worth, just being honest and being kind to yourself. And something I'm very big on, and I know you'll agree with this very much. I don't care what the question is, the answer is love. So one thing that I work with my clients on so much is just saying, is this acting out of love or desperation? Is this acting out of love or loathing for myself? Because you can't shame yourself and hate yourself into that body that you want, as you said. It's not going to work.
And I think relative to even self-love is, like, I always tell people this, but self-worth is not something that you build. Okay, you've been worthy since you came out of the womb. Your worth has always been there. You need to learn to reveal it, and that doesn't come from just shouting affirmations in the mirror and telling yourself lies, because that's not going to help you. But it does come from embodying a level of self-respect. When you respect somebody, you don't treat them like shit. When you respect somebody, you don't sit there and binge eat your feelings at night because you wake up and feel like shit because you've treated yourself like shit. You pay attention to what you put into your body. You pay attention to the relationships that you're in, the amount of shit that you take on from other people. And I think if you can start looking at, do I even respect myself? Like, stop worrying about how other people treat you. How do you treat you? And if you can't start to treat yourself with some self-respect, then being intentional about doing that on a daily basis will build your confidence. People want to learn how to be confident, right? Confidence comes from having enough self-respect to discern what is good for you and what is not, and making the right decision regardless of the temptations or desires that are right in front of you. Because we all have them. We all have instant gratification desires. We all want to feel good in the moment. But unfortunately, everything that feels good in the moment isn't necessarily good for you long term. The things that don't feel great to you in the moment typically are. So if you can learn to discern between those two things, you will start walking a path that is good for you, and you'll build and achieve all the things that you say that you want.
I'm just going to sit here and let you keep going. Like and the reason this relates to the Trump Biden swing is because when there is that love, there is that hatred, there is that incongruence between what you say, what you do, um, that causes these drastic swings, and it goes into like when you hear someone say, um, "Well, I start my diet tomorrow. I'm just going to go nuts tonight." Well, now's probably not a very good time to start a diet then, because it's going to go too far.
And what that
One thing.
also makes it sound like is like a game. It's a start and stop. Once I achieve
Mhm,
this goal, then I will go back to my old habits.
mhm,
Instead of looking like, hey, I don't have to think of this as a start or an end date, but I need to look at how can I improve some of my behaviors around food? How can I
mhm.
improve my behaviors throughout the day, or the actions that I take that would support my overall health? And slowly starting to titrate those things, because then you don't get into this dogmatic space in the beginning. You say, I want to slowly start to improve my water intake and stop eating Little Debbie's Twinkies at midnight. Like, okay, well, now we can start improving some of those behaviors over time so that you don't have these detachments to food, or these attachments to food to deal with other shit in life. And most people don't know how to cope. They don't know how to deal with the hard shit in life because we're told that everything should be good all the time and you're just supposed to be happy. I don't think you're supposed to be happy. I think the message that you're supposed to be happy all the time is bullshit. You're not supposed to be happy all the time, right? We are so dynamic as individuals that you cannot expect yourself to be happy all the time. And then when you're not happy, you think something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fucking human. And you have to learn to accept those things and then be able to take action despite them.
I'm just going to clip this whole thing up into piece after piece after piece. It's so good. And ladies and gentlemen, if I resonate with you, men, ladies, if I resonate with you, I love this because you get to hear it from both. And the thing is that I'm gonna let y'all know something just from my perspective. It, as a man that truly cares about everybody he meets, she can probably validate this because she saw me running around like hugging everybody. It breaks my heart to watch it because I know you're hurting, and that's where she's dead on with subtle shifts. Those subtle shifts make a big difference. They make such a big change. And again, the average person only gains 2 to 5 pounds a year. That is a subtle shift, but it's where you look up in 10 years and you go, where the heck did this 20 or 50 pounds come from? So will you speak on those subtle shifts a little bit more, because we both love behavior change, and subtle shifts. They can look like a little bit of water. They can look like the alarm going off 5 minutes earlier
It
just
can
to do
literally
somebody a
look like
trust.
getting up and getting out of bed when your alarm goes off the first time, right? Instead of hitting the snooze button, you can have the intention of, when my alarm goes off, I'm getting my fucking ass out of bed, I'm putting my feet on the floor. And then maybe you stack on top of that, I'm going to get outside. It's great for circadian rhythm. It's great for natural energy. It's great for regulating your cortisol levels. It's great for all of those different things. It doesn't have to be everything. I have one client who's lost 20 pounds in about 6 weeks. This is not aggressive dieting. We didn't even look at dieting. We just said, let's look at our behaviors. One of the big things she needed to work on was eating undistracted. Maybe you sit down at the end of the day after a long day at work and you grab the potato chips or the Doritos, and then you turn on Netflix and you just snack mindlessly on stuff. You can be intentional about, hey, when I'm done eating dinner, I'm going to shower, I'm going to prep my stuff for tomorrow, and when I sit down to watch TV, I'm going to have a cup of tea. You can still have something, but it doesn't need to be food that you're mindlessly eating, because most people will overeat past the point to satiety, and they don't know this because they're just sitting there mindlessly doing something while they're entertaining something else. And so it can be so many different little things. It could be the fact that you are so stressed out because you always say yes to things and you're terrified to say no, not because you're a people pleaser, but because you have low self-esteem and you want people to like you. Okay, when people say they're people pleasers, it has nothing to do with the fact that you just spread yourself thin for everybody because you're a good person. You do it because you want people to validate that you're a good person or that you're enough. When you recognize that, all you're doing is creating resentment, because when people can take a lot from you and they don't do the same thing for you in return, you get resentful. So let's prevent you from doing that or getting to that space, and learn how to say no. And that's okay to say no. It doesn't make you a bad person to say no, but maybe you work on interpersonal skills and setting boundaries, because what you're doing when you say no, also, especially if you're a mother, is you're teaching your kids to build skills. They want to make a sandwich for lunch? Let me show you how to make a sandwich. And then I will watch you make a sandwich, and now you can make your own lunch. It's little things that you do, but what you're doing is taking away autonomy for other people to learn how to do shit, because then they become codependent on you to solve all of their problems, which later on in life frustrates the fuck out of you because you don't have any space to breathe on your own. And so it can be lots of different things. If you drink lattes or frappuccinos every day from Starbucks, like make your coffee at home, right? Make it. I love protein coffee. I do it every morning. That is my breakfast with some fruit. I'm on a mango kick right now. I fucking love fruit. If you don't like fruit, then something is wrong with you. Who hurt you? Okay. So just little things that
Mine was to the protein shake or the protein coffee. I was like, leave my coffee alone. That's gross. Don't do it.
I love
Leave it
protein
alone.
in my
Get out of
coffee.
my coffee.
Love protein in my coffee. I'm an iced coffee girly with protein every morning. I like it.
Just like, don't put Greek yogurt in my oatmeal. Leave it alone.
Yeah,
Stop
that's
it. No,
fair.
no, gross.
Cauliflower in your fucking oatmeal. That's another thing. Is also when you're looking at trying to improve like lifestyle habits with food or finding lower calorie stuff, you don't need to fill your gut with a bunch of artificial bullshit either. Like maybe one of your goals literally is for a week, you look at the back label and look at what a portion of something is and you weigh out one portion for every meal. It could be that fucking simple. Maybe you're eating a bunch of baby bell potatoes and you're like, oh, 85 grams. Let me have one 85-gram serving with my dinner. And you'll see what one portion actually looks like. And you can start to learn these behaviors so that when you go out to eat and you're eating with your family because you need to have a social life, you know what a serving of starches look like, or a serving of protein looks like, or what vegetables you should be having with different things, or how much fat is in different things, right? How much is 2 ounces of avocado? You're probably getting 6 on your salad. You have no idea that's even there because you've never looked at a portion of something. So there are so many things that you can focus on. You could literally focus on anything. It could be steps. It could be going to bed on time, not being a night owl, getting up on time, getting light outside, staying hydrated, getting some water. There's a million different things.
I like this song. But it's to her point, and to take it one step further, she would get here. Don't try to focus on all of those at once. Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one at a time. And to the ladies that I've worked with, over 16 years, I don't think most women have a problem saying no. They say no all the time, but to themselves. So every time you say yes to something you don't want to do or that you don't have the bandwidth for, you're already saying no to yourself. So let's just flip that around. You're already incredibly adept at saying no, just to the wrong person.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've always said, and this is kind of a life lesson of mine, but when you try to do everything to appease everybody else, what you're doing in return is rejecting parts of yourself, right? And so you have to learn that you need to value your opinion over everybody else's all the time, right? Because everybody's always going to have something to say about you. People are going to be disappointed. People are going to want you to operate, function, speak, talk, like, learn, operate, carry yourself, dress, look a certain way. But you have to do it in a way that you like, that feels authentic to you, that represents you well. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks when you value your opinion more than you value that of other people. Because people always say, well, don't give a fuck what other people think. It's human nature to care what other people think. It's okay to care what other people think. You shouldn't care more about what they think than what you think. I think finding the balance in that will give you a lot of power back.
I love that tool. I love that tool, and it's so beautifully true and so beautifully articulated. You talk good. So, and there is a point, if I may, on something you said. I see it all the time. We talked about it the other day with Dan. I do see that with moms. Well, they feel this guilt and this shame when it's, well, I feel guilty for going to the gym or for taking the time to do this. And I've said it in relationships. I'm like, well, let's look at that. And I've said it with clients. Let's look at that. I understand it. I know where it comes from. Let's talk about where it comes from. But also, when ladies, anyone, let's just say anyone, doesn't take that time for themselves, obviously we know the whole put your mask on first, and you got to be the best version of yourself. But here's the other implication I think that people miss. They say, well, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll break. We're aware. Or you're enough. Enough for what? I always ask that. But it's when you're not enough to push yourself. The people around you might be your husband, your kids. There are going to be those times. And I think that it's very important to look and stop and say, okay, what am I teaching my children here? Like, am I teaching my daughter that she should neglect herself for everyone else? Am I teaching my son that every woman in his life for the rest of his life should be his servant?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
one of the things that I had a podcast with a mom, and I was talking to her, and I was like, one of the things that absolutely kills me, and I think about this like as a mom, I can't wait to be a mom. But I would never want my child, because now social media is everywhere. So I would never want my child to, let's say I die of a comorbidity, right? And every single thing I'm talking about is how I have to put my child first, and I'm exhausted, but I put my kid first, and I'm doing all these things, but I put my kid first. Then my kid opens up social media one day, and it's like, holy fucking A, my mom never prioritized herself and never took care of herself because of me. And it makes your child feel like
Mm.
a burden. Like, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. And so for me, it's about teaching them it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to exercise. It's okay to eat healthy. It's okay to say no to certain things when you don't have the capacity to do them. And you're not letting anybody down, because you need to take care of you in order for you to show up as the best version of you. Like, no mom feels great when she's yelling at her kids because she's reactive, because she's stressed and underslept, right? Nobody feels good about lashing out at people because you are not refilling your cup or refueling yourself. And so, in order for you to show up with compassion and empathy and patience, which you need for toddlers, you have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself first, to be in the headspace to go, okay, we're going to clean up this mess. I still love you, though. You made a mess, though. We're going to clean this up. And you can't do both. You can't be spread thin, underslept, overstressed, and also patient, right? That's just unrealistic expectations from the jump. It's really difficult to do that, especially over a long enough time horizon.
I'm just writing things down. I'm taking notes on my own Instagram live right now.
I like that.
Like, well, that's a good tool. Um, Now I'm writing down times that I want to come back to, because there's so much good here. This is honestly incredible. And I'm so glad we made that connection at the Real Coaches Summit. So Ram, if you ever watch this, thank you, brother. Because I have no doubt that the three people that listen to this ever will really appreciate it. Um, and I think that you mentioned something that even I had not fully contemplated and worked my way through. So now I get to have fun with this one later, right? Now we dive in. But I would hate for my child to log on to social media and be like, oh my God, they did that because of me. On the inverse of that, it's almost like we see parents and people, just in general, let's just say people, take pride in being a martyr.
Yep. And I think that's toxic. I think it's absolutely toxic. I think for women to feel like their life is to be sacrificed to make sure everybody else is okay is not something that you should hang your hat off and be proud of. Because what are you teaching your daughters? What are you teaching other women in society? I mean, look at most women in society right now are struggling because it's like, I need to work a 9 to 5. I need to make my own money. I need to also raise my children. I need to also be a part of all the school stuff. I need to also be in shape and look beautiful. It's like there are so many pressures and expectations. It's like you cannot possibly do it all. That's another thing, is like learning to ask for help. Saying, hey, I can't do all these things. I do need help. I do need some support, and that's okay. Right? That's why having a coach is great. Somebody take all the guesswork off of you, help you to build systems, look at your lifestyle, look at your schedule. Here's how we're going to work this in. These are the things we're going to change. And then you don't have to stress out about trying to chase some surface level solution, take a detox pill or drink celery juice first thing in the morning. Like, all of that stuff is bullshit, but it makes you feel good because it feels hard or disgusting in the moment. And you're like, oh, something's going to work here. Nothing is going to work because nothing's fundamentally changing.
Yes, again. And by fundamentally changing, she means that intrinsic thing, right? That intrinsic thing.
Nothing
And with,
changing.
right,
Right?
there's no
People get frustrated.
value shift. There's no identity shift. One of my big coaching, you see me talk about it, identity. Like, we have the identity as when I have a client write down their identity, invariably it's, well, I'm a mom, I'm this. I'm like, no, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, those are roles you play. What happens when your kids graduate and leave? Okay. What happens um, when you lose your job? What happens when you stop working and you retire? That's where we see people like get so divorced whenever their kids leave, or when they quit their job and they're retired and they got all this money in the bank and they're going to travel the world and they go back to work.
Well, what I think is really funny is all of the women that we idolize in society, it's not that they can do everything, it's because they double down on what it is they're good at and they get help with the things that they're not. Like
Mm.
Beyonce is a great fucking performer. She's a great artist. But she's got help at home. She's got help with all the other shit. Like we think all these women are so like boss babe, awesome, amazing creatures, but it's like they just know themselves well enough to know this is my lane. This is what I stay in and I get help in the other parts. And you can do the same thing.
Yes.
Because everybody loves the mom that's like, oh, she's awesome and she does all these things, or she looks great, or she's this, or she's successful. And that's like, yeah, you can do that, but you have to know yourself well enough to know these are the boundaries. This is my lane. I need other people to play these other roles. And then you come together as a team and you get shit done, and everybody wins.
We are a team. We are meant to operate as a team. And there is this, and I even have clients like, I'm just used to figuring everything out. I'll figure it out on my own. Like, no, that's what I'm here for, is to help you do this. No, I'll do it myself. Okay. Like, that doesn't make you a hero at, at all. Like,
Yeah, your pride
and
will be the
speaking
thing that
from,
gets in the way of you succeeding.
it does. And, you know, and as a man, growing up, when I grew up, it was, you don't talk about it, you deal with it, you just drive on, and you deal with your crap, and you don't cry, and blah 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 blah. Well, no, guys, like, you need to talk to somebody too,
Mm-hmm.
because that's why we're 150% more likely to be alcoholics, 200% more likely to be drug addicts. Look, I forget the number. I think it's 125% more likely to complete suicide. Like, we're all getting our ass kicked. We're all, well, hopefully you're doing the best you can. Why do you think? Here's a great example. You know how I can prove that we need help?
Mm-hmm.
I have a pretty successful business. You have a fairly successful business as well. If I could do this on my own, why would we be on this live right now?
I think this is something that I was just talking to people about. It's like you have to be careful of people that say that they know everything about everything. I'm the first person to admit that I know a lot about a lot of things, but I certainly am not an expert and I don't know everything. I could not
Mm-mm.
possibly know everything. That's why you need people around you that's like, oh, I don't necessarily know, but I know this person who can tell me the answer to this thing. And we are much stronger as a force when we come together. That's why I love what Aram is doing, because he's taking a lot of great people with a lot of great minds and a lot of areas of expertise. And then you build relationships like this where it's like, hey, if I ever need to talk to somebody like Sam Miller about hormones or women's reproductive health, like I can reach out to him. He and I are great friends. If somebody needs to talk to somebody about behavior or psychology, like they'll reach out to me and I'll troubleshoot client problems with another coach, because I want them to stay with who they've built their trust with. But that doesn't mean that they're always going to be the most skilled person to help them troubleshoot a problem. And that's not ego. It requires you to be humble and understand that you are limited as a human being, that you cannot possibly know everything. And doing the right thing sometimes means saying, I don't know, but I will find out.
I did that today already. Like,
Mm-hmm.
today, these are great. Like, you and I both love psychology. We both love nutrition, but we're going to have slightly different takes. And that different voice matters, right? Um, I mean, hell, I'm a recovered alcoholic drug addict that tried to kill himself. I'm going to have a different perspective. And that's why these things matter. So for those of you out there that listen to this in the future and you feel like I can figure this out on my own and it makes you a superhero to do it, no, it doesn't.
I don't know.
No, it really doesn't. And it's not strong and it's not impressive. Um,
And the
I,
other thing that I'll say about that too is if you think you can do it on your own, it will take you 10 times as long. And a lot of people value their time. Again, a lot of you are trying to rush to get there in 12 weeks. You trying to do it yourself by being hard headed and stubborn and thinking you know everything or you should be able to figure it out. You can't even figure out what to eat for breakfast. You're not going to figure out what path you need to take moving forward. And I mean that respectfully. But it's
I
like
know, as soon
you
as
can't
it
figure
comes.
out all of these things. And it's okay to say, you know what? I've got so much fucking shit on my plate. I need you to help me figure this out. And I need you to teach me skills. And I need you to give me tools. And I need you to give me education so that when you get there, you know how to keep what you've achieved. People don't have a weight loss problem. We don't have a problem getting people to lose weight. We have a fucking long-term sustainability issue. Right? That's the shit that I care about. That's the shit that he cares about. But you have to humble yourself and go, you know what? I can do a lot of fucking things. But a lot of you can't do anything for yourself, and you need to start doing that.
Woo!
And I say say this because I love you. If you're new to me, I promise, yes, I'm straightforward, but I say it because I love you, and I wish somebody told me this shit.
It's this. You know how we know we need help? Because I got my butt kicked really bad to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore and pulled the damn trigger and the gun didn't go off. You think I got out of that hole by myself? I've struggled with fat, like my weight my whole life. I didn't get out of it myself. You heard her struggle earlier. She didn't get out of it by herself. We're not saying that to be like, you need to come hire us right now. It's just to say we understand. And our goal is not to like pick you up out of that hole. It's to teach you how to build the steps so that when you fall again, you know how to climb back out.
Yeah,
I
because
think,
one thing that I think is really important for people to understand is that your journey is not about me. It's nothing to do with me. Your
mm-mm.
journey is about you, right? And this is where I get really fucking pissed off because people will say one-on-one customized coaching. It's not fucking customized. Everybody gets the same shit. Like if you want something that's truly customized, there needs to be an examination call. There needs to be screening. There needs to be schedule auditing. There needs to be behavior analysis, right? If you're not getting all of those things and then going, okay, this is how we slowly need to start to tinker these habits and behaviors and systems so that it's natural for you to get into a cadence of momentum, that's where people fall off because we're not flipping a switch. We don't need to flip this fucking switch. We don't need to drop it like it's hot all the time. Okay. We need to focus on how do we take one more step and can we build endurance towards this goal so that you can run your own race. That's what fucking matters. It's not about me. You're driving this shit. We can go as fast or slow as you want to. I just care about you getting there.
That's all we care about. We're the GPS. We can help. We can reroute. We can show you. And I love what you said about custom. I love that. That is so true because that is such a hot button word. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to speak for her without having asked her this. If you want a quick fat loss coach, don't call either one of us.
No, I used to coach that. I mean, I've gone through many different
I've
niches
been
and
there.
different
I've
phases,
been
and they've
there.
all taught me something. But I have seen so many people become damaged, broken, have eating disorders, have hormonal issues, more hormonal issues and digestive issues come out of the dieting industry than are present in the general population. So people want to go against, oh, Ozempic, oh, doctors, oh, this shit. Like coaches are doing just as much harm. And my number one philosophy is do no fucking harm. So I don't I don't get into that shit anymore. I've competed in bodybuilding. I've prepped people. I still prep a few people, but I set expectations from the very beginning. This is what we expect. This is when I will pull you out. This is what I'm not willing to sacrifice. This is what we're not compromising on. And I think that just having those transparent conversations, because every coach is going to have their own philosophy, and there's a million ways to skin a cat. And my philosophy might not work for you, and that's cool. I'm not here to be everybody's coach. I couldn't possibly do that. But you do want to find a coach whose philosophy works for you. And I think that that's super fucking important. Knowing yourself well enough to know what do you need versus what do you want.
That is so beautiful. And I think a key thing to look for, just since we're giving tools now, um, is if somebody says, I can work with everybody, maybe you can, but should you? Because I know I can't. And I've been at this 16 years. I just referred a client to somebody last week to another coach that I know. They wanted to do bodybuilding. I was like, I don't do that, but I'll help you afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like once you're broke, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, there's going to be somebody who is an expert in that thing. Right? Somebody
Mm-hmm.
will obsess over that demographic, that population, more than somebody who's the jack of all trades. Right. And so it's knowing again, what is your role? What is your lane? What do you focus on? I'm very psychology and behavior focused with obviously an understanding of metabolic adaptation. That's what I studied in my first master's. So I've got a lot of knowledge, but that I don't specialize in hormones. I don't specialize in muscle building or powerlifting, right? I do a lot of psychoanalysis and behavior change, and that's what my cup of tea is for people that I'm serving, and that's cool.
And I think that's beautiful. And I know you're dadgum good at it. And that makes me happy. So it makes me happy because I know there's legit people out there. Again, y'all are going to get tired of us hearing about it, but I'm wearing this on every one of my lives right now. But those coaches that were at that summit truly give a crap. And it's very beautiful because like I connected with some of the, like one person, two of them are graduating college right now. And one of the things at 41, it was funny, like Derek Stanley and Jeb and I were talking, and They were like, yeah, dude, you're like one of the OGs, bro. And I'm like, what? Well, he's like, compared to them, like you're twice her age. Like, you know, but it's cool because we're all working together. And a tip for anybody watching this, Chad and I just talked about it on my live right before this. If you see like, hey, all these people are like being kind and seem to care, and wait a minute, they all follow each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a pretty good indicator they're not full of crap. Another good indicator that they don't have your best interest in mind is if they immediately try to sell you something or use fear.
Yep.
If they use fear or try to sell you something right off the gate, run. At least you'll get your steps up.
And I think what you're really getting at here is like you and I or anybody that was at that event, we're not competing against one another. Right? There are plenty of people that need help, and we're all coming together to say, hey, we want to do this the right way. We want to show you how to really achieve the results that you want. And again, we all have different personalities. I'm a little bit spunky. I'm a little fiery. I can be a little witty and sarcastic, but I fucking care, right? I can be a little passionate as well. Like, but at the same time, right? Somebody might work really well with that and they might feel compelled to work with me. And somebody else might love your banter and love your story, and your story might resonate with them to go, holy fuck, he overcame this stuff. He can help me do the same. And so your story is your strength. We are all very different with very different perspectives. Like I said, a million different ways to skin the cat, but you have to find the path and the philosophy that works best for you. And then once you buy into a coach, please do yourself a service and buy into that. Don't listen to a million different opinions and a million different perspectives and a million different paths and a million different meal plans and a million different nutritional protocols. Listen to what you're being given. That is what you have invested in. Like I said, nothing is usually right or wrong, but everybody has their own approach. And so if you've bought into something, give yourself the opportunity to fucking succeed by buying into it truly.
We're not even going down that rabbit hole. That's a whole nother live because I do that. I get that all the time. Well, my old coach said this. Well, why are you with me now? But that's a whole nother thing. And it is like we are all so different. Like I love your spunkiness. I can be that way. You've seen it. But my typical approach is going to be like I'm faith-based for most of my clients. Like I'm quoting the Bible to them, and but we're all needed. We're saying the same thing. And that is how to bring it back to the beginning. We stop the swing, those slight shifts, finding whether you're paying for a coach or you have someone around you that cares. A great way to stop that swing. There's a reason that we have Senate, Congress, all of these things, because it's a check and a balance. What checks and balances do you have to keep you from tumbling from direction to direction and downhill and spiraling out of control?
Yeah. And the other thing that I will say is it's not about speed. It's about the fact that you keep moving, right? Because the faster that you try to overhaul your life, the faster that you try to get there, the faster that you will go back to the beginning, right? An object in motion will stay in motion, and your goal is to keep staying in motion towards the thing that you want to achieve. Because the other thing that you will understand as you get more versed in your fitness or health wellness journey is that you will pivot as you go, right? Again, I was a Division I athlete. Then I competed in bodybuilding. Then I did jujitsu, right? Then I did dance. Right now, I'm just focusing on continuing to sustain fitness in a way that I enjoy. I might do Pilates. I might do a UFC fight camp. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I can keep moving the goalpost for whatever my proclivities are in fitness because it is a lifelong thing. My goal is to keep moving, to continue to exercise, to prioritize my mental and physical health, and then continue to eat in ways that are good for me. But however that path goes, I'm just going to walk it because it's good for me, and I have to respect myself enough to hold myself to a standard to continue to invest in my health and wellness. So don't feel like you have to box yourself into one thing. You can do lots of different things as you go. The goal is that you keep going.
I love that so much. And if I may, one final tip and one final take from you. I'm just going to toss tips out and let you just run with them. So many people, and this I think is one of the major causes of the Trump Biden swing here. Too many goals are external and not intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
They should be at least a 1-to-1, in my opinion, far greater intrinsic compared to external.
So I think it's really important to understand about this. And again, this is why I always say I can say this stuff and people can listen to this and it will sound really good. And you'll be like, fuck yeah. But you will still have that voice in the back of your head that is compelled to do this because you want to look better. You want people to validate that or that you look good. So what I always tell people is that the fire that burns that gets you started is not going to be the fire that continues to propel you forward. As you go through it and you achieve that goal and you're getting the validation and you realize that you don't feel better in your skin and you're not more confident, you'll go, okay, wait, maybe I did do this for the wrong reasons. Now I want to do it because it's good for me. And I want to do it in a way that I enjoy. And I want to do it in a way where I'm not stressed or anxious about my steps or my workouts or getting sick or missing a day. Because again, that's kind of a dysfunctional relationship with all these different apps, trackers, and tools, which is fine. But you'll get to that point and you'll realize, okay, I need to look at why I'm really doing this and what is the long-term outcome that I actually want to experience, because oftentimes we're chasing a feeling. And when you can recognize the feeling that you're trying to achieve, then you can think about, well, what are ways that I can feel that way as I go throughout the process? And you can gamify the things that you're doing to where it's challenging enough that you're motivated and you feel good continuing to pursue it. And the moment that your motivation declines or it feels like work to you, then give yourself permission to pivot into something new. But the goal is that the underlying theme is that you're doing it because it's good for you and you respect yourself enough to continue to invest in it.
My gosh, I freaking love you so much. Like, this is so good. And it is, it's give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. You're dadgum worth it. And again, my phrasing for my clients would be, it's different stages, right? So as we progress, there at every state, at every new level, there's a new devil. But that's okay. And that's actually kind of cool when you learn to embrace that as new challenges. But at each time, if I'm hearing you right, it becomes like, cool, here's a new thing. And learn to embrace that, because you hear that cliche all the time, embrace the process. And every time I hear that, I kind of want to punch somebody in the face. I mean, it's true, but it's just like, shut up. Like, just be quiet. Like, or in the military, we say embrace the suck.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing about it too, is the only thing that's getting in your way from achieving what it is that you want is you. And so you have to learn to beat the boss, and everybody thinks it's something outside of them. It's you the whole time that's causing you fucking chaos. And so like there will be parts in your journey where you recognize that. Again, you might have to grow through that process to see it, and that's okay. Everybody's growth and their journey is their own. It is not my destiny to interfere with. But I think that instead of putting pressure on yourself to always feel like you enjoy it, stop expecting yourself to enjoy it all the time. Like I said, you're not always going to be happy. You're not going to feel motivated. It's not going to excite you. It's going to feel daunting and overwhelming, and you might only have 15, 30 minutes, 20, I don't care what it is. But you will always have more confidence and more self-respect when you follow through on the commitments that you made to yourself. Because you can get pissed off at everybody else when they don't follow through, or they say they're going to do stuff and then they don't do it, and you get pissed off at them. But people don't get mad at themselves for lying or saying they're going to do something for them and then they don't do it. And so what I would encourage you to do is hold yourself to that same standard and watch what happens.
100%. 100%. We actually did a whole podcast on that on the Determined Society, my buddy Sean French, on operating out of self-respect. And listen, y'all, just to validate not what she's saying, but why you do it. Most of us are taught, most of you are taught your entire life to keep your word to other people. You're very, very rarely taught to keep your word to yourself. So I understand why you do it. Let's work on that. It's the same way we call it the credit score and the trust score. What is a credit score? A credit score is whether a business or a lender should trust you enough to give you money that you'll repay the debt. But nobody focuses on what their own trust score is. And as like a business owner, we can spout off people's KPIs in a heartbeat, which is key performance indicators for somebody that's not a business owner. But nobody can tell me what their KFI is, what their key fulfillment indicator is. Like, what are you doing? And one last point, if I may, please, because you're a gooder speaker than me, is it was on purpose. Is I love.
I'm sorry.
You see, like we're trying to be serious. But is the biblical definition of to endure, and I think it's very beautiful, is to suffer patiently. I love that so much. Right? I see your brain going right now. You're like, I'm going to get a message from you in like 3 days, like I haven't slept yet.
I say this all the time, but life is a series of pain and suffering. It doesn't matter what you do. You can seek out every instant gratification, dopamine fulfilling thing in your life, and you will still experience pain. There will still be suffering. And so trying to avoid it is giving you the tools to be able to navigate through it. And that's what a lot of people need to learn. That is mental fortitude, that is endurance, right? That is walking the path regardless of how the scale shifts on any given day, staying the course through it, because that will teach you more about yourself, what you're capable of. Again, self worth, self love, all of these things that we've discussed today. It's like you have to be willing to let things be painful and feel the pain as you go through it, because you will come out the other side and also recognize you're okay. Everything is still okay.
And you're better for it. You really all are better for it. My God, this was powerful. I've been very blessed to have a couple really, really powerful episodes this week. They're going to be up on YouTube. So if you like this, like, comment, share, follow. Now, you have an incredible podcast. You have an incredible page. Where can they find you?
So my podcast is called Elevate, ELEV, and then number 8. It is a personal development podcast, so feel free to check that out. And then my page on any platform is Kate and Michelle, as you see spelled somewhere in here.
If you could leave people with one just final thought, and I don't care if it's about your favorite ice cream, what would it be?
Do it because it makes you better, not because it makes you smaller.
You heard it straight from her. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon.
Have an amazing day.
You too.
Bye.